Welcome everyone to the Surviving Economic Collapse blog. Today I just want to give everyone a garden update of my self-sufficiency garden. First of all, let's take a look at the tomatoes. So since last time, the tomatoes have grown by a great deal. It's been over 3 weeks since we checked here last, and notice that I've been tying the tomato bushes to this sort of like central wooden spike. It gives it support and prevents the tomatoes from sort of falling down to a giant pile. Notice that there are these little tomatoes coming in, lots of little flowers, which will become more tomatoes. Alright, the mulch underneath holding up very, very well, keeping the water consumption low. You know, these tomatoes, 3 of them, require about 1 gallon of water per day during the hottest days in the summer. Alright. Nice. Look at this. So notice the one on the left and the one on the right are hybrid tomatoes, but the one in the middle is actually an heirloom tomato that I cultivated just for the heck of it. Notice that the one in the middle is a little bit smaller than the one on the left and the one on the right. You know, hybrids are easier to maintain and they tend to produce more tomatoes over time. But the heirlooms, you can save the seeds and propagate it generation after generation. So I like to grow both. Okay, so let's take a look at how the summer squash are doing. Alright, so you see that the summer squashes have grown by a lot since the last time we came here, and you see how there's some flowers coming out. Summer squash crops are great because you can eat the flowers, you can eat the leaves, and of course you can eat the squash, which is quite delicious. And the onions are still going. We've been eating onions out of the garden every week for the last 3 weeks at this point, and there's still quite a few left. See this one. This squash is doing very, very well. It's taken up most of a quadrant of this raised bed. See the onions here, just about getting ready to flower. This one. Alright, let's take a look at the garlic. Okay, so the garlic we've been eating on a pretty regular basis, eating the green garlic and just taking them out one at a time. There's still about 2/3 of a field of this left, and notice how all of them are almost beginning to flower. They're going to flower pretty soon, in the next, I say, 2 weeks or so. And once they flower, the bulbs will be pretty much be ready. So we should be harvesting that at some point in July. In the meantime, we have plenty of green garlic to eat, which is nice. Alright, let's move on to the beans. Dun, 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 dun. Look at this. So the peas are doing very, very well. But also, the pole beans are growing up. So you see how the pole beans are basically succeeding the peas. You know, the peas have grown all the way up, and the pole beans are down on the bottom, but they're making their way up the poles and the vines and the structure. The peas have been very, very productive this year. We got lots of peas, had many, many meals, good meals worth of peas, and this will produce for another 3 weeks or so. And then the beans will completely displace the peas, and then we'll have beans for the rest of the year, you know, all the way till November. Notice how I have many different kinds of peas, at least 3 different varieties, and 4 different varieties of beans. This is really important because the beans and the peas, you know, if you have a single breed, a single pestilence or blight can wipe them out. But if you have many different breeds, you know, some of them will always survive. So if you look at here, right, the Kentucky Wonder hybrid beans are doing very, very well. You see that the French golden beans are doing pretty well, yet the dragon beans are not doing well at all. It's actually being eviscerated by some sort of a disease or pestilence. So you see, by having genetic diversity, you will be sure to get a crop. You know, some will die, but a lot of them will live. Alright, let's look at the greens now. Swiss chard coming over, doing very, very well. We should begin to harvest this Swiss chard soon, maybe in another 2 weeks. Garlic is becoming ready. It's almost ready to be harvested. You know, the garlic in this raised bed is doing much better than the one in the field, possibly because this bed I've tilled and heavily composted, whereas the bed over there I'm using no tilling techniques. Alright, and finally, if we look at it, the carrots are all gone. We've actually harvested and eaten all the carrots, and they were quite delicious. One thing I wanted to show you guys is this wondrous onion flower. So onions, they flower quite differently from chives, and you can tell it's actually a very brilliant, white, beautiful little flower coming out here. There we go. And finally, we come to the potatoes. So I haven't had that much luck this year with potatoes. As you can see, some of the leaves are quite devastated. It appears to be aphids that are attacking these potatoes. The 6 potatoes are still hanging in there. I've been kind of warding them off a little bit by using herbal sprays, but also using wood ash, basically spraying wood ash on the edge of the leaves. And that keeps the aphids away for a little bit. But really, at this point, it's a rearguard action. I just want to make sure that they survive long enough to give me a mediocre crop of potatoes, which I think we can still pull off at this point of the year. So that's it, guys. Garden's coming along very, very well. We're getting some food, and life is good. Peace out.